They begged me not to share this. They begged me not to say this out loud. Not because it is dangerous, but because it is true. Because once you hear it, you will never unsee it. And when you act on it, everything about women will change. Not just how they treat you, but how they look at you, how they chase you, how they fear losing you. See, there's something women never wanted men to figure out. A hidden emotional code. A psychological blueprint that keeps them in control. Keeps you doubting your worth, chasing their validation, and mistaking their silence for love. But once a man wakes up, once he learns the one thing that flips the emotional script, women panic because they know once you reclaim your power, you become unreachable. No more chasing, no more begging, no more asking. What did I do wrong? You'll finally see her behavior for what it really is. Not affection, not loyalty, but control dressed as connection. And the second you stop reacting to her games, the moment you stop giving her what she used to manipulate you with, that's when she realizes you are not the same man. Lesson 1, she doesn't want perfect. She wants presence anymore. You're colder, calmer, more focused. You've stopped explaining and started disappearing. And that silence, it terrifies her because now she's not in control. You are. This is the shift they never wanted you to make. Because once men understand this, women cannot play the game the same way again, and they know it. Let's talk about what this really is, and why once you know, she'll never be able to treat you the same again. The biggest mistake men make today is thinking they have to be perfect to be loved, that they have to have it all together. The right words, the right job, the right body, the perfect energy just to be seen. But let me break that lie today, because women are not looking for your perfection. They're searching sometimes without even knowing it for something far more rare, your presence. See, presence is not about doing the most. It's not about constant texting, planning romantic dates every week, or bending over backwards to make her smile. That might feel like love to you. That might feel like effort. But to her, it is noise. Because if your spirit is not there, if your attention is not anchored, she does not feel you. She only sees what you are trying to prove. And women are masters at sensing emotional absence. You could be sitting right beside her, saying all the right things. But if your mind is chasing her approval, if your heart is secretly begging for her validation, she feels it. She might not say it, but her body knows, her intuition knows. And that's when she starts to pull away. Not because she's confused, but because something in her whispers. He does not see himself yet. Presence is when you are here emotionally, not scrambling to win her, but simply being calm, being rooted, being enough. It's when you look at her with clarity, not fear, when you listen with intention, not anxiety. When you can sit in silence without trying to fill the space to keep her interested because you are already at peace with yourself. The truth is, a man who is present becomes unforgettable. He's not flashy, but he's felt. He does not flood her phone with texts, but his absence echoes. He does not compete with other men because there is no competition when a man knows who he is. And when a woman encounters that kind of man, one who does not chase, one who does not over-explain, one who does not need her affection to validate his existence, she feels something different. She feels safe. She feels challenged. She feels alive because your presence, not your perfection, awakens her feminine energy. It invites her to relax, to open, to trust. It tells her, you do not have to perform here. You're not being judged. I see you and I'm here. And in that moment, she softens not because of what you did, but because of who you are. But most men never get there. They're too busy performing. They're too busy proving. And in the process, they lose the very thing that would have made her stay. Their peace, their stillness, their presence. So, I'm telling you this not as a strategy to get her to like you. I'm telling you this so you can remember that you were never meant to perform for love. You were meant to embody it. And once you do that, once you stop trying to be perfect and start showing up present, she'll feel you and she'll never forget you. Let's talk about energy, not the kind that shows up in loud gestures or flashy outfits. I'm talking about the quiet, invisible energy that walks into a room before you do. The kind that tells a woman everything she needs to know about you without you saying a single word. Because whether you realize it or not, your energy is always teaching people how to treat you. Especially women. You cannot fake it. You cannot perform your way out of it. You are what you carry. And when your energy is needy, unsure, doubting, always is trying to please, she feels it. She may not call it out directly, but she'll react. She'll test your boundaries. She'll take a little more than she gives. She'll push to see how far you will bend. And if you bend too, lesson 2, your energy teaches her how to treat you far. If you keep shrinking yourself to make her comfortable, to avoid rocking the boat, to keep her around, she loses respect. She may not even know why, but something in her just stops trusting you. Because a man who does not honor himself cannot be trusted to honor her. Your energy is your frame. It's the emotional boundary you carry into every interaction. And when you walk in your worth, when you show up clear on what you will and will not tolerate, not just in your words, but in your spirit, you immediately change the dynamic. Suddenly, she's not in control. She's not testing you to see how much power she has. She's looking to see if she's worthy of your space. She starts adjusting herself to fit your standards. But most men do not believe they have that power. They give it away through over-apologizing, through silence in the face of disrespect, through chasing women who barely text back, through tolerating mood swings, manipulation, coldness just to avoid being alone. And the longer you allow that behavior, the more you train her to believe it is okay, that she can take without giving, that she can hurt without consequence, that you will always be there no matter how she shows up. But here's the hard truth. A woman cannot love a man she does not respect. And she cannot respect a man who cannot protect his energy, not protect her. Protect himself, his peace, his mission, his standards, his emotions. When a woman feels that you are emotionally solid, that you do not need her chaos to feel alive, that you can say no with a soft voice and walk away without drama, she takes notice. Her feminine energy either rises to match yours or she falls away, and either one is a win for you because you are no longer available to be emotionally manipulated just to feel wanted. Your energy is your armor. It tells her, you do not get to throw your moods at me like weapons. You do not get to earn intimacy without effort. I do not just give, I require. And when you walk in that kind of energy, you stop teaching women to use you and start teaching them to value you. There's a moment in every man's life when he has to stop explaining himself. Stop trying to be understood by people who are committed to misunderstanding him. Stop fighting to prove his heart, his intentions, his loyalty, especially to a woman who already decided she could treat him carelessly and he'd still stay. That moment is sacred. It's the beginning of a man's transformation. Because the truth is, women hear you the first time. When you say you love her, when you say you are hurt, when you say you need her to show up differently, she hears it, she understands it. But if she does not respect you, if she does not fear losing you, she does not respond to it. So, what do most men do? They repeat themselves. They explain more, they write paragraphs, send long messages, pour out their hearts in voice notes trying to make her see what they are feeling. But that only makes her colder, more distant, more confident that she still has power over your emotions. Because the more you explain, the more she learns how far you are willing to go for someone who's not even meeting you halfway. And you think being vulnerable will save the relationship. But it is not vulnerability if it is not respected. It's self-abandonment. So here's the shift. Stop explaining. Start disappearing. Not as a strategy to manipulate her, but as an act of self-respect. If she does not respond to your needs, your truth, your love, you do not yell. You exit quietly, fully, without drama, without warning, with dignity. There's something terrifying about a man who disappears in silence. Not because he's angry, but because he's done. He does not need to prove anything anymore. He's not trying to fix it. He's not chasing closure. He's simply honoring his soul. And that silence, it echoes, it lingers, it hits her at 2 a.m. When she checks your profile and sees that you have moved on. It hits her when she realizes you did not block her. You just stopped caring, you became unavailable. And that unavailability is not about pettiness, it's about alignment. You're not walking away from love, you're walking away from disrespect, from confusion, from emotional poverty. You're not abandoning lesson 3, stop explaining, start disappearing. Her, you're choosing you. And when you do that, you shift the emotional balance, you stop being the man who begged and become the man she regrets losing. But here's the thing. By then, it is too late. You're already gone. You're already healing. You're already building a life so full she no longer fits inside it. So the next time you are tempted to over-explain, to defend your character, to beg for love, remember this. Your silence is your final word. Your absence is your loudest answer. Let her wonder, let her miss you. Let her sit in the emptiness she created, because you did not disappear to be cruel. You disappeared to protect your peace. Men, I need you to understand this. You were not born to orbit her world. You were not created to spin in circles around her moods, her desires, her timing. That's not love, that's captivity. And too many of you are enslaved to a woman's approval, waking up every day wondering, oh, what do I need to do to keep her happy? But what about you? What about your mission? What about your fire? Let me tell you something most women will not admit out loud because it scares them. A man on a mission is dangerous, not because he hurts anyone, but because he cannot be controlled. His emotions aren't dictated by her silence. His self-worth is not defined by her affection. His direction is not interrupted by rejection. And that is magnetic. That is what keeps a woman up at night thinking about you long after you have stopped calling. A man chasing purpose walks differently. He does not walk behind her hoping to be chosen. He walks forward focused, driven, and she has to catch up. That's not ego, that's alignment. See, when you make a woman your purpose, you lose your identity, you slowly disappear, you stop building, you stop dreaming, you trade your ambitions for attention. And the worst part, she starts to resent you for it, because deep down, she does not want a man who makes her his everything. She wants a man who already had something going before she came along, something so powerful that it made her want to earn a place in it. Your purpose is not a backup plan, it's your lifeline. And when you are locked into it, women feel it. You're not texting all day waiting on her replies. You're not sulking when she's cold. You're not unraveling every time she pulls away. Why? Because your life is full. You've got goals, you've got vision, you've got places to go, and she can either come along for the ride or get left behind. And if she leaves, you do not crumble, you rise, you use that pain as fuel, you hit the gym, you start the business, you deepen your faith. You build your empire because your value was never in being loved by her. It was in fulfilling the calling inside you. The irony is, when you stop chasing women and start chasing purpose, women chase you. Not because you are playing games, but because you have become rare, you've become solid, unavailable to foolishness. And she knows men like you do not come around often. Men like you do not wait around. Men like you do not need her. And that changes everything. So stop making her your focus. She is not your destination. She is a bonus, not the blueprint. Your life is the mission, your growth is the goal, your calling is the compass. And when you follow that, you do not lose women. You attract better ones. Ones who rise to meet you, not ones who drain you just to keep you. It's one of the most misunderstood forms of strength a man can ever develop. Most people hear the word and think it means coldness, that you do not care, that you are emotionally distant or unavailable, but that could not be further from the truth. Detachment is not about not loving her. It's about not needing her love to survive. It's the moment you realize you can care deeply, give fully, feel everything, and still walk away when your peace is on the line. Detachment is lesson 4, chase purpose. Not women loving her without losing yourself. It's seeing the red flags and not painting them white just because you are afraid to be alone. It's not detachment from her. It's detachment from the outcome. Because a man who is emotionally detached does not crumble when she changes. He does not beg when she withdraws. He does not panic when her tone shifts or when she pulls away. He observes. He stays calm. He leans into his own clarity. And that silence, that grounded energy, it disarms her. See, emotional detachment is power. Not power over her, but power over yourself. It's the ability to feel everything, but still act in alignment with your values. And when a woman feels that she reacts, suddenly she's second-guessing her games. She's wondering why you are not reacting the way other men do, why you are not trying harder, why you are not fixing it. And the truth is, she knows she cannot control you anymore. That's when the panic sets in, because emotional control was her leverage and now it is gone. And no, this is not about manipulating her emotions. It's about no longer letting her manipulate yours. Most men have been trained to believe that the more emotionally available they are, the more loved they'll be. But the reality is being emotionally available without boundaries is like opening your home and letting someone walk through with muddy shoes. Scratch the walls and rearrange everything and you just smile because you love them. That's not love. That's self-abandonment. Detachment says, I can love you and still walk away. I can forgive you and still choose myself. I can feel the hurt and still protect my peace. When you become that man, the game shifts. Not because you are trying to win, but because you are no longer playing. And the thing is, she'll feel it. She'll feel the shift. She'll notice your silence. She'll check if you viewed her story. She'll overthink your last message. Not because you are playing hard to get, but because you are finally hard to reach. You're not reacting anymore. You're not bleeding for someone who wouldn't even hand you a bandage. You're emotionally grounded now, centered, whole. That's the man she respects. That's the man she regrets losing. So do not be afraid to detach, because when you do it with self-respect, with clarity, and with peace, you do not become colder, you become stronger. And from that place, real love, the kind that does not need games, can finally begin. Let me say something to you that no one said when you were younger. You are the prize, not because of what you have, not because of your looks or your status or your money, but because of who you are becoming. And until you believe that you will keep handing your worth to women who never deserved it in the first place, they told you she was the prize, that you had to win her, chase her, prove to her that you are good enough, that her attention was your reward if you behaved, if you performed, if you gave enough. But here's what they did not tell you: the moment you make someone. Lesson 5: when you detach, she reacts, else the prize. You forget that you were never meant to compete, you were meant to lead. You are the prize when you walk in purpose. You are the prize when you honor your word. You are the prize when you set standards and hold them. You are the prize when you show restraint. When you do not fall for lust in a cheap dress or validation wrapped in fake affection. You are the prize when you stop choosing women out of loneliness and stop choosing from wholeness. And yes, when you start to act like the prize, some women will call you arrogant. Let them. Because the truth is, a man who finally knows his worth terrifies a woman who only knew how to manipulate his insecurity. You become unpredictable, unreachable, and deeply attractive. But being the prize is not about ego, it's about energy. It's the energy of a man who is full with or without her, who does not need her approval to feel like a man, who does not chase love because he is love. Grounded, strong, and silent in his knowing. It's in how you carry yourself, how you speak, how you stop explaining your boundaries, how you stop apologizing for being unavailable to nonsense, how you stop shrinking so she can feel big. You do not beg to be understood anymore. You do not argue with disrespect. You just leave. That's the energy of a man who knows he is the prize. And here's what happens. The moment you truly walk in that truth, everything shifts. She starts to question herself. She starts to reflect. She realizes she's not dealing with just another man she can bend. She's standing in front of a mirror, a man who forces her to see her own behavior, a man who does not flinch when she withdraws, a man who does not fold when she tests him because you are not afraid to lose her anymore. You're afraid to lose yourself. And that fear that's sacred, that's the kind of fear that builds kings. So today, stop begging for a seat at her table. Build your own. Stop waiting to be chosen. Choose yourself. And when you do, something beautiful happens. You stop chasing love, and you start attracting women who respect honor and rise to meet you because a real woman knows. When a man walks like the prize, he does not ask to be seen. He is seen. There's a silence that comes when a man finally wakes up, when he stops begging to be seen and starts seeing himself, when he's no longer driven by fear of losing her, but by the fear of losing who he's meant to be. And that moment, that's the rebirth. It's the moment he stops texting paragraphs and starts building peace. The moment he stops seeking closure and starts building clarity. The moment he stands in the mirror, tired of the games, tired of shrinking, tired of questioning his worth, and whispers to himself, "No lesson 6, you are the prize, walk like it more. No more over-explaining, no more proving, no more chasing. No more abandoning yourself to be loved by someone who does not even know what love is." Because here's the truth. The moment you choose you, the world will try to guilt you into going back. The women who dismissed you will resurface. The ones who played games will suddenly miss you. But it will not hit the same because now you are not the same man anymore. You're walking slower, heavier, sharper, not bitter, just built differently. Because you remembered what they tried to make you forget. You were the prize you always were. So to every man watching this right now, if you felt this in your soul, this is your moment to draw the line, not in anger, in peace, quietly, fully, powerfully. Walk away from anything that makes you forget your value. Walk toward the man you are becoming. Walk like the prize you are and let the world feel your absence. Drop a comment below and write, "I choose me." Let the world know this is your moment. This is your return. This is your rebirth. Hit that subscribe button right now, not just for content, but for clarity, for emotional truth, for reminders of who you really are. Like this video, if it woke something up inside you, share it with a brother, emotional peak. Closing message plus call to action, who's lost himself in the pursuit of someone who never deserved his love because he needs this message as badly as you did. And when they ask what happened to you, tell them you stopped begging to be loved and started loving yourself like your life depended on it, because it does.
Because it is easy, but because it is essential. Because every trial faced with wisdom adds a new layer of armor to your mind, a new line of clarity to your worldview, a new depth of resilience to your soul. Think of one obstacle in your life right now. Don't minimize it. Name it. Then write down what it could be. Training in you patience, humility, resilience, courage, clarity. Ask yourself, if this obstacle were a mentor, what would it be trying to teach me? Let that become your new lens. Let that become your practice. Meet the moment, engage with it, turn the weight into strength. Chapter 6. You choose discipline over distraction. In a world that thrives on interruption and feeds on urgency, discipline is a rebellion. It is a sacred act of resistance against the pull of distraction, noise, and mental clutter. The Stoics understood this deeply. They lived in times of great political unrest, temptation, and social chaos, and yet they chose to focus inward. They sharpened the blade of their attention and pointed it at the only target they could truly hit themselves. Discipline for the Stoic is not punishment, it is alignment. It is the conscious decision to not let the world write your scripts. Seneca said, "No person hands out their money to passers-by, but to how many do each of us hand out?" Our lives were tight-fisted with property and money, yet think too little of wasting time. The one thing about which we should all be the most mislead. To be disciplined is to know what matters and then act like it. It is to wake up and remember your mission, not once, but every day, even when it's dull, even when it's draining. It is to say no with conviction to the trivial, the tempting, the loud, the shallow. It is the deliberate refusal to be scattered. It is the courage to sit in silence while the world chases noise. It is the strength to remain aligned when distraction promises relief. Discipline is not rigidity, but rhythm, a rhythm grounded in purpose, not preference to delay the easy thing so you can build the meaningful thing is to honor your future self. It is to understand that what is urgent is rarely what is important, and what is important will never shout as loudly as temptation. The Stoics knew this deeply. They knew that without discipline, philosophy becomes poetry, pleasant to hear, beautiful on paper, but useless in battle. They knew that a life of intention must be built brick by brick, decision by decision, in the quiet moments where no one is watching. You are walking the path when you stop, letting every impulse become action, when you train yourself to notice the itch of distraction and choose presence. Instead, when you stop letting every craving become command, and instead begin consulting your principles before your pleasures, you shut the door on distraction, not because you hate it, but because you recognize it for what it is, a thief in disguise. You value your potential more. You respect your purpose. More discipline is not about willpower alone. It is about clarity. It is about cutting through the fog of temptation with the blade of intention. It is about knowing what matters most and protecting it fiercely. Not just when it's easy, but especially when it's inconvenient, unglamorous, and quiet. It's what you do in the shadows when no one is watching. That reveals the depth of your discipline. It is about creating a life of integrity, where your actions echo your values so consistently that even your internal resistance begins to yield. It's about building habits that echo your deepest commitments, not fleeting goals, not shallow rewards, but values that transcend mood and circumstance, especially when it's hardest to do so, when you're tired, when you're bored, when every excuse feels valid. Discipline is what brings you back when others waver. You return to the foundation. When your mind wanders, you gently guide it back. Not with shame, but with persistence. Discipline is not brute force. It is elegant. Redirection. Practiced over time, it becomes not just an act, but a second nature, an identity, a rhythm that defines the way you move through the world. It becomes the gravity that holds your life in shape, keeping your priorities from drifting and your focus from scattering. Identify one area of your life where you feel pulled by distraction. Zoom in, feel the friction. Now, ask, what would a disciplined version of me do differently today? How would that version respond to this moment, this temptation, this fork in the road? Do that just once. Then again, protect your energy. Like a fortress, don't apologize for it. Let your boundaries speak your vision, and then watch what you can build within clarity, strength, mastery, and peace. Chapter 7. You practice voluntary discomfort. Comfort, when it becomes constant, becomes a cage. It may feel soft and safe, but over time it corrodes the edge of our strength. The Stoics did not fear discomfort. They practiced it. They embraced it, not because they were ascetics or masochists, but because they understood Aurelius' truth. If you can train yourself to go without what you desire, then you can never be enslaved by it. True freedom is not found in indulging every craving, but in learning that you can live, even thrive, without it. Seneca once spent days sleeping on the floor and eating coarse bread, not to dramatize austerity, but to ask himself a powerful question. Is this what I feared? That experience was not self-punishment. It was self-liberation to walk through the very thing you fear and find that you are still standing still. Breathing still whole is to reclaim power over it. If you can thrive in less, you become more. If you can endure cold, hunger, solitude, or fatigue, then you are no longer held hostage by them. They lose their threat. You rise in stature. The practice of voluntary discomfort is about glorifying suffering. It's about clarifying perspective. It's about reminding yourself that comfort is not the same as happiness, and that pleasure is not the same as peace. It's that comfort is a preference, not a necessity. That you can train your body to endure more than it wants, and your mind to hold steady when ease is nowhere in sight. It's about hardening the mind before life hardens it for you, because life will test you. And if you've never practiced discomfort, the smallest trial will feel like collapse. But if you've chosen discomfort on your own terms, you are already tempered. If you avoid every discomfort, you weaken your resilience. You make yourself fragile. But if you choose discomfort strategically, with intention and discipline, you prepare your soul for anything. You inoculate yourself against fear. You make yourself durable, adaptable, operable. You are walking the Stoic path. When you stop running from discomfort and start walking toward it, when you choose the cold shower, waking up in the early morning, the hard conversation, when you willingly deny yourself, ease not to suffer, but to grow, when you learn to sit in hunger, silence, heat, or solitude without complaint, when you stop making comfort a condition for action, when you say, I will not wait for adversity to shape me. I will shape myself. I will become the fire before the world forces me into the flame. This week, choose one comfort to go without screens after a certain hour. Sugar fast food chips, salty snacks, hot water showers, even your usual chair. Do it not to punish yourself, but to train your independence. Let your discomfort remind you, I am more than my cravings. Chapter 8. You anchor your life in principles, not moods. The modern world teaches you to follow your feelings, to act on impulse, to make mood your master. But the Stoics taught the opposite. Follow your principles, let reason not. Emotion be the engine of your action. Moods fluctuate principles. Do not. If you only act when you feel motivated, you will be inconsistent at best, and lost, aimless, and easily manipulated at worst. But if you act based on values, you become something rare in this world, solid grounded, untouchable. You become someone others look to when the storm hits, not because you're always happy, but because you're always anchored. Marcus Aurelius wrote, just that you do the right thing. The rest doesn't matter. Not how you feel about it, not who approves, not whether it's convenient, just that you do the right thing. This sentence is the heartbeat of Stoicism. The Stoic doesn't ask, what do I feel like doing today? They ask, what would virtue do today? What would the best version of me choose in this moment? They understand that feelings are visitors, sometimes wise, often deceiving, but values are residents. And a life built on values is a life with foundation. To build a life on principles means you become your own lighthouse. In emotional fog, it means you are no longer governed by mood swings, weather patterns, or social media algorithms. You stop outsourcing your decision-making to the shifting sands of emotion. You no longer live as a leaf tossed by the wind. You become a rooted tree still, present, aligned. You have something stronger than impulse. You have a North Star, a direction, a code. You know who you are and what you stand for, even when your emotions scream otherwise, even when the world offers you 1,000 reasons to quit, break, or conform. You're walking the path when your behavior is no longer dictated by motivation, but by meaning. When your actions are grounded, not in fleeting excitement, but in lasting purpose. When you stop waiting to feel good before you do good, and instead choose to do good because it is good. When your identity isn't built on how you feel, but on what you uphold, what you are willing to live for and perhaps even suffer for. When you begin to notice that real confidence doesn't come from riding the high of motivation, but from showing up when it's gone, when there is no applause, no reward, just the quiet conviction that you are living aligned when discipline continues after inspiration fades, and your effort is sustained by integrity, not adrenaline when you show up on the days you'd rather disappear, and honor your commitments even when no one else knows or cares, when you hold to your standard, not because it feels good, but because it is good, because it is right, because it is yours to live by. Principle is not to be perfect. It is to be consistent. It is to fail forward. It is to fall, recalibrate, and return. It is to live with structure in the midst of chaos, to hold an inner order, even when the world is unraveling, to live with calm in the middle of fire, not because you are detached, but because you are rooted. It is not glamorous. It is not always praised. In fact, it is often invisible, but it is unshakable. It is not noise. It is signal. The Stoic doesn't seek approval for it. They don't do it for show. They do it because it aligns their life. Because a life without principle is adrift without anchor. Because the cost of compromising their code is greater than the cost of discomfort. Delay or discipline, when you choose your code over your convenience, your values over your vanity, your integrity over your insecurity, you are walking the same path. Marcus Aurelius once walked not above the world, but above its illusions. Not detached from life, but deeply connected to its truest rhythm. Choose one guiding principle: honesty, courage, kindness, self-discipline. Write it down, not just in your notes, but on your heart. Let it be more than a concept. Let it be a contract, a vow, a daily intention. Then begin to observe yourself closely, as if you were studying your own character in real time. Track how many of your actions today align with that principle, not in grand gestures, but in the smallest choices. How you respond to irritation, how you speak to strangers, how you handle temptation, how you show up when it's uncomfortable. Review it at night. Ask, did I live by this today? Not to judge, but to clarify, not to condemn, but to realign. Be honest. Were there moments you abandoned it for ease? Were there moments you upheld it despite resistance? Let your evening reflection become a sharpening stone, not for guilt, but for growth. Begin living by that principle, not only when it feels natural, but especially when it feels inconvenient, when you're tired, when you're under pressure, when it would be so much easier to take the shortcut. That's when it matters most. That's when the virtue begins to shape you. Let your principle become your compass, not just in easy moments, but in uncertain ones, when the path forks, when emotions flare, when fear clouds your sight, that's when your principle becomes your guide. And if you fail, and you will, that's not a reason to stop, that's a reason to return. Recommit, re-engage, reflect. The Stoics knew failure was inevitable, but they refused to let it become final. They didn't aim for perfection. They aimed for persistence. They understood that stumbling was part of the journey, but quitting was not. Each fall is a signal, not of weakness, but of where the next layer of strength needs to be built. Let each day be a new opportunity to embody what you believe. Let every failure become fertilizer. Let every shortfall refine your commitment. The Stoic understands that growth is not linear and transformation is not instantaneous. It is gradual, forged in repetition and tested in fatigue. If you abandon your principle after one failure, you never believed in it. But if you return to it again and again, you begin to embody it not just as a behavior, but as a way of being over time. That single principle practiced daily becomes the backbone of your integrity. It becomes your moral architecture, the invisible framework that shapes every decision, every boundary, every expression of who you are. It becomes the origin of your clarity, the reason you can think straight when others are lost in noise, the reason you remain steady when the winds shift. The seed of your strength planted in discipline, watered in humility, and grown in repetition until it blooms into character that nothing can take from you. Chapter 9. You master the inner dialogue. The battle that matters most is the one no one else sees. The one that happens in your mind. The Stoics knew this intimately long before neuroscience, long before therapy apps. They understood that the way we speak to ourselves shapes our entire world. Thoughts may be invisible, but their impact is not. They can either chain us or free us, corrupt us or cleanse us, paralyze us or move us toward greatness. Epictetus wrote, "It's not things that disturb us, but our interpretation of them." The Stoic realizes that between what happens and what it means lies the voice of our own judgment. And if that voice is undisciplined, irrational, or self-defeating, then peace and purpose become impossible. So they train the voice, they challenge the thought, they interrogate the narrative. The Stoic mind is not loud, but it is deeply aware. Mastering your inner dialogue means refusing to let your mind become a breeding ground for negativity, resentment, or helplessness. It means observing your thoughts without being ruled by them. It means knowing the difference between a thought and a truth, between an emotion and a command. You can feel fear and still act. You can notice doubt and still choose courage. The Stoic doesn't silence their mind, they sharpen it. You are walking the path when you take responsibility for your inner voice, when you stop letting thoughts run wild and begin to question the lens through which you perceive the world. You catch yourself in spirals of self-pity or rage and choose to stop, not through suppression, which buries the fire deeper, but through redirection, which transforms it. You step back, you breathe, you ask, is this thought useful? Is it true? Is it helping me become who I wish to be? This is not denial. It is discernment. You begin to recognize the difference between what simply passes through your mind and what deserves to remain there when you replace panic with a pause. You give yourself the space to lead, not be led. You reclaim your authority over the inner realm. You no longer let emotions storm in and seize control. Instead, you slow the moment down. You remind yourself, I am the thinker of these thoughts, not their slave. You start choosing your inner language with intention. When you speak to yourself, it's no longer with indulgence that excuses weakness, nor with abuse that damages your spirit. You speak with discipline, with the steady voice of a mentor, and with dignity, as if your soul is something sacred, worth protecting and strengthening. The Stoic knows if you win in the mind, you've already won in the world, because the outer battle is only ever a reflection of the inner one. And the mind, once mastered, becomes not only your defense, but your greatest weapon, your deepest well of strength, and your clearest source of peace. Take one recurring thought, especially a negative or anxious one, and write it down. Then rewrite it from the perspective of your highest self, not your fear, but your wisdom. Read it every morning and evening. Let it become the new voice echoing inside your mind. Chapter 10. You live for impact, not image, in a world obsessed with perception. The Stoic is obsessed with substance. The modern mind craves attention, validation, visibility, but the Stoic mind craves truth. It is not interested in how things appear, but in how things are. It asks not, do they see me winning, but am I becoming someone worth being? This distinction is everything. The former traps you. In a life of performance, the latter roots you in a life of purpose, Seneca warned, "What is the point of having countless books and libraries whose titles the owner could scarcely read through in a lifetime? The number only confuses a learner instead of instructing him." The Stoic applies the same logic to reputation. What good is being admired if you are empty inside? What good is fame? If your character is hollow, what does it serve you to be known widely, but understood shallowly, or worse, to be celebrated outwardly while suffering inwardly? The Stoic does not chase applause. They chase alignment. They do not seek to impress. They seek to become, not to be admired, but to be anchored, not to be followed, but to be forged. When you live for impact, you stop needing to be seen. You stop designing your life around optics and start rooting it in purpose. You start needing to be useful to matter, not in headlines, but in households, not in noise, but in quiet acts of truth. You begin to ask new questions, not how does this look, but what does this contribute? Not will this go viral, but will this endure? You ask, what can I give? How can I serve? What legacy am I building in silence? What ripples will this leave after I'm gone? The Stoic doesn't broadcast their principles. They embody them. They wear virtue, not as a slogan, but as a second skin. They are known by their consistency, their discipline, their substance, not their marketing. Their reputation is a shadow, not the goal. You are walking the Stoic path when you stop measuring success by metrics and start measuring it by meaning. When your victories are internal, silent, personal, anchored in integrity, and your compass points steadily toward contribution, not recognition. When your first instinct is no longer to be seen, but to be sincere, you begin to ask, not, did they notice me, but did I move something forward today? Did I make someone stronger, wiser, or more grounded just by being present? This is where the Stoic lives, not in the limelight, but in the quiet corners of impact. You let go of the obsession to be liked and replace it with the intention to be useful. You shift your aim from applause to alignment, from pleasing crowds to pleasing your conscience. The reward is no longer visibility. It is virtue. You no longer perform for validation because you have found validation. In principle, you don't chase relevance. You chase meaning. You begin to live in such a way that if your life were private, if it were never shared or praised or promoted, it would still be deeply worthwhile because you would know you are aligned. Your life becomes less about showcasing and more about shaping. shaping yourself into someone strong, just, and dependable. Shaping the world around you through quiet service and unseen effort, you begin to feel the richness of invisible contribution. You start to value legacy over attention, intention over reaction. You ask not, how does this appear? But what does this produce? You know that lasting influence is often planted in places no one will ever see. And you're okay with that because you've chosen the deeper path. You seek not attention but authenticity. You are no longer a brand, you are a force. You walk into rooms not needing to dominate them but to uplift them. You move through life, not polishing your image, but sharpening your soul. You do not need to shine, you need to stand. You do not need to be seen. You need to matter, and when that becomes your way of life, you have not just studied Stoicism. You have lived it, audit one area of your life where image has taken priority over impact. Social media, career choices, even conversations. Is there something you're doing more for how it looks than what it means? Are you choosing visibility over value? Side with that. Ask yourself, if no one ever saw this, would I still do it? Would I still say this, wear this, post this, pursue this if there were no likes, no applause, no recognition waiting at the end? Let that question strip away the performance. Let it expose what's genuine. Then go deeper. Ask, what would I do more of if I wasn't worried about how it looked? What would I let go of if I didn't need it to be admired? Let those questions refine your priorities. Let them guide you toward alignment. The goal is not to disappear, but to become undeniable in your truth, to do fewer things for show and more things for substance. Let that question guide you not just back to what matters, but into a life that means something, even if no one is watching.